I'm here with Carol Dodds, and Carol and her husband Stuart work with Crew. They work with Athletes in Action, and Carol and her husband are the regional directors of this area with Crew, and Carol leads the women. And as I've talked to Carol through the last few months, I've been really impressed with the things she's shared with me about the role of spiritual disciplines in her life. And so I wanted to ask her a little bit about that for all of us, and just have her share with us a little bit about spiritual disciplines and how she experiences those. So, Carol?
Well, it's great to be with you all, and thanks, Mary, for having me. It's an honor to serve with Mary. Mary is a great inspiration to me and a great friend, so I'm thankful for that. Spiritual disciplines and spiritual direction came into my life about 5 years ago, which was an amazing balance that God brought in, coupled with being on staff with Crew. Because Crew, as many of us know, is very active and very action-oriented, and at this point in my life, a friend of mine told me that she had been thinking more about reflection and silence and even taking a Sabbath and things like that, and it began to really pique my interest. So I was going to walk you through a day in my life. Would that be okay?
Awesome.
Okay. And this doesn't happen every day. I wish that I could act like it did every day, but in a perfect world, which we don't live in, this is what it is. So I wanted to start by sharing with you just a definition. One of the key spiritual disciplines that has really ministered to me is, I really wanted to share with you kind of four little points. One is about silence, another is about Sabbath, another one is I just forgot what the other one was, but I'll get to it. But let me start with silence and Sabbath. And the other one is daily examine, where you look at your life throughout the day and think about what happened in the course of the day and where you were emotionally. And another one's kind of a fun one that I'm just going to share with you at the end. So silence has been a very key part of this whole spiritual formation process for me. And let me read the definition of silence. It's to free myself from the addiction to and distraction of noise so I can be totally present to the Lord, to open myself to God in the place beyond words. So I brought a few visuals today to show you, one of which is one of these candles that you just don't even have to light. You just can turn it on. So one of the typical things I do in my time with the Lord is I will put this candle at a distance. If I'm inside, I don't use it if I go outside, but if I'm inside, I put it up on a desk. I'm getting it out of your view here, sorry. And I really do, as crazy as this sounds, I focus on the flame while I just let myself kind of get in a place of quietness before the Lord. Now, I should have maybe started with this. A friend of mine gave me this snow globe. Some of us grew up on this, but it has two red birds, which is kind of fun. But all of us know what it's like when all the snow is going, trying to get the snow going here. And in order to be able to see the visual here is you have to let it calm down. And so part of the whole heart behind spiritual disciplines and spiritual formation is that you let the snow kind of calm down in your snow globe. I also happen to be very much a type A, very much of an extrovert. So that's why all of these things have been so life-giving to my heart. So those were a couple things when I look at during my time with the Lord. So what I will do is almost every day is I'll sit before the Lord, and I will either look at my candle if I'm sitting inside, or I will just sit quietly outside and maybe look at my flower baskets, or just in the distance in my yard. And I usually will say a very simple expression like, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. I'll say it over and over again, kind of quietly, and then I'll just be quiet. And then at times, of course, we all have distracting thoughts, like I'm thinking about my kids, imagine that, or something like that. And then I just picture like a boat going by and me just leaving those thoughts of my children, and let the boat take it off into the distance. So I have also will take my cell phone, and at times will set it for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'll put it somewhere behind me where I can't see it. and I will just then be completely quiet and let my snow globe just settle down for that 15 or 20 minutes without praying. I'm not praying about anything. I'm not trying not to think about anything. I'm trying to let the boat carry my thoughts off, and just at times repeating a phrase like I said, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. So that has been very significant in my life. And another thing that's been very, very significant, which this is probably a role that someone like Mary plays in your life, is that I have had a spiritual director I've met with. Some of you might ask who a spiritual director, and it's to give caring attention to my relationship with God, accompanied by the prayerful presence of someone who helps me listen well to God. So I meet with someone here in Austin once a month, and they pray for me and do that. So it's kind of a cross between a counselor and just a spiritual guide, kind of a person praying with you, which has been really, really significant in my life. So one thing that you're going to think is pretty crazy, but there's a little golden book called Everything I Need to Know I Learned from a Little Golden Book. I was given this when I took a sabbatical about 4 years ago. And in this, it talks about all these things we experience in life that are fun. Going on a joyride, looking up at the stars, frolicking in the grass. Well, I'm a person who likes to have fun, and I think sometimes life can just knock the fun out of you when you have hard things go on. And so I try to look through this, and I try to purpose to do the things in this book. Those of you who know Mary and John are all about adventure. They do things like that. So this is kind of my little journal for that. I actually have a best friend right now who is going through a real crisis in her life, and we're actually journaling in this summer. We're getting together later in July, and we're going to talk about it. So to me, that's a spiritual discipline because it's a part of enjoying the world that God's given us. So those are some things. The last thing I'll share with you is at night when I'm going to bed and just trying to fall asleep, I will do what is called in spiritual direction a daily examine. And what that is that's examining your life from the 24 hours before, and saying, Lord, what I do is I say, where was I sad, mad, and glad? Make it real easy. And so it's kind of a challenge. I'll think, okay, what was the saddest thing about my day? Where did I get the most mad? And then I can end with glad, or maybe you want to start with glad. For example, yesterday I had an unexpected call with my 2 daughters, and it was really good. It made me glad because I was able to connect with them. But I had a misunderstanding with another person during the day, so that made me sad. And then I was mad because I didn't honestly feel like some of the dynamics my husband's going through in ministry, I got really defensive about those. And I'm like, hey, you aren't showing him the respect that he deserves. So I just thought about, sad, bad, and glad. And so if I do that at night, it just kind of frees my heart up. And so I hope, and I actually have one more thing, and that is just taking a Sabbath. I began about a year or 2 ago from 5:30 on Saturday to about 5:30 on Sunday. I don't let myself work. I enjoy the Lord. I enjoy people in my life. We just had the Hendersons and the McIntoshes over last week. That was great for my Sabbath. And then I don't let myself wash dishes or do laundry. If I'm tempted to, I'll just slap my hand and say no. And I really just look so forward to when 5:30 comes on Saturday. And then by the time 5:30 comes on Sunday, I'm like ready to get my schedule ready for the week and all that kind of thing. So spiritual direction has done so much for me and my relationship with the Lord, probably as much as anything in these last 5 years of my life, and giving me more of a quiet spirit and more of an ability to see the face of God above anything else in my life. And so I'm very thankful to be able to share about that today. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you, Carol. That is just such a great list of actual exercises that we can do and benefit from. And I know just seeing Carol's life, I can tell there's something different because she puts things like this into place. So I'll put a link to where you can get the Spiritual Disciplines Handbook on Amazon, which has even more of these type of activities. So that's it for today, and thank you again, Carol.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.